Hello everybody, this is Chase here. I'd like to go over some ways to combat the Bitmex overload problem. I'm seeing a lot of people having this problem and there are a few ways to combat it. I'm going to show you a few strategies on how to find your entry and how to not be someone who's stuck there spamming to enter a position, just simply getting overloaded. We should know ahead of time that there's two types of traders. There's people who find their entry within, let's say, the wedge, and then they wait for the fallout or the breakout. And there's people who are breakout traders, and they will enter upon a break in the formation. So first off, let me say, if you're a part of the Discord, we have a full, learning section here. Where you can recap some of this stuff. I show you how to enter, where your stop loss should be. Some of this stuff has already been covered. I'm happy to go over it again. So let's start on a fresh slate here. And first we'll start with a rising wedge. I'm going to show you two strategies for each one. And basically the point here is for you to be able to find an entry that makes sense to you. Obviously within the Discord, when we're doing live trading, I'm there, finding levels of confluence for a bullish or a bearish scenario, and I'm always posting these things and letting you guys know what the current price action is looking like and where we could possibly go. So that's what we do, but at the same time we want to have a sense of where we can enter and what we should expect from these formations. So first let's start with a rising wedge. Now there are let's cover two situations here. We will use our short position because, as we know, a rising wedge is typically a bearish pattern. So there's two types of entries here. We could be a type of person who enters towards the top. If we enter towards the top, we could do it like this. A stop loss. I'm actually going to use horizontals here, I think, because it'll be easier to see. Let's use purple horizontals, and that will work. Okay, so there's the type of person who enters here, and you're entering right here towards the top of the wedge, and then you are setting your stop loss. Stop losses will be red. You'll be setting your stop loss to above the rising wedge. So hopefully you're seeing some type of resistance here, and we start moving sideways. We start getting towards the side of the wedge here. You set your entry point, you get your entry in right around here, and depending where you enter, if you're entering over here towards the top, like say we're mooning from here and we hit this tip and you enter here, then you obviously want your stop loss to be a little bit above the wedge. You can move it down as we get closer to falling out, and if you play it from here, so actually we'll cover three strategies. If you play it from here on the edge of the wedge where you're like, okay, this is just about to fall out, I think, you can enter and you could set your stop loss a little bit lower. And if you're a breakout trader, when the new candle forms outside of the formation, you can enter there and set your stop loss right back to where the candle would need to be if it came back inside the formation. As we know, with all these type of trades, it's wise to keep an eye on like the Bitmex and the GDAX price, because sometimes we could fall out of formation, but the whales decide that they're not ready to dump or they're not ready to pump yet. So make sure you're keeping an eye on the price, because Bitmex often can be very volatile in terms of, an inexperienced trader can, sell 1 million contracts, and it might look like the formation is broken, but it might not be on, Bitfinex or GDAX or, another option is also to use the Bitfinex charts. I've been considering doing that lately. So that's how to play a rising wedge. How to play a falling wedge. Our entry price, scenario one, our entry price could be right around here towards the bottom of the falling wedge. We dump, we find some support. This literally happened yesterday at about 7,300, or if that was 2 days ago. We found support at 7,300. You could have entered there with your stop loss right below the wedge here. Another opportunity is to enter around here when you are and keep an eye on my cursor to know where I'm talking about. Enter around here to, when you see the candle start to get towards the side, about to break out possibly, and then you can move your stop loss up and be ready for the breakout. If it decides to dump down more, you get stopped out for a very small loss. This is what it's all about, finding these big wins, keeping our losses small. And then the third scenario is to play the breakout. So you get a breakout candle here, and you put your stop loss back inside the formation. Okay, that's how we do a falling wedge. Just a sip of water here. Let's move over to the ascending triangle here. With an ascending triangle, you are able to enter your position towards the bottom here if you would like. Triangles, I always say this, an ascending triangle, typically a bullish pattern, but for Bitcoin doesn't seem to respond to triangles, very well. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't, but I find the wedges to be much more reliable when playing moves. But rarely do you see a rising wedge moon out the top, but you've seen ascending triangles dump out the bottom, or falling, descending triangles moon out the top all the time. So let's say that this was going to be bullish, and as always, there are signs that we're looking for as the price action moves within the triangle. And those are the type of things I talk about, as we discuss in the Discord. We're looking for TK cross, we're looking for a sharp uptick up the Technin, we're looking for a tightening of the Bollinger Bands when we get towards the climax point, towards the top of the formation or towards the bottom of the formation. All these different things that we're covering constantly, and that's what I'm trying to do, is to get you guys to figure out how to get an entry, before you're having this Bitmex overload problem. So say we enter towards the bottom here, we're getting candles moving around, we see that we catch support here, you enter right around here, your stop loss goes right below. Okay, you are going to, now next scenario is you see the candles grinding against the top, you enter here, stop loss right below, or if you want to allow some more room, you can still put your stop loss below the support here. And then third option is you enter upon the breakout and stop loss is right back inside the formation. Okay, let's move down to the descending triangle here. Descending triangle, typically known as bearish, but as always, in Bitcoin, they're tough to call. So let's play it as if it was bearish. We could do an entry off the top here. So candles come down, we find resistance, we enter off the top. Stop loss is right above. Second scenario, we see it grinding along the bottom here. We think it's going to fall out. We enter. Stop loss right above. You can keep it tighter. If you think it's 5 minute, we get like a sharp downturn on the Technin or something, and the bands are really tight. Whatever we're looking for at the time, and then it starts. You can get your entry right there. Stop loss right above. You can always use like above the top of the Bollinger Bands or something for your stop loss. Like there's things that obviously I go into in live trading when I say certain things, when I'm very confident in a play and I can call some stop losses and whatnot. And then there's the third scenario, enter upon the dump, stop loss back inside. Okay, so let's move over now to the head and shoulders formation. Within a head and shoulders formation, there are multiple times to play it. Typically we will see the left shoulder play out. If we can see the left shoulder play out and we can see the head play out, then at the top of the head, especially if the head is at resistance, let's say the head is at a resistance level, you can enter your short here at the top of the head, right at the resistance level. Red line, stop loss right above, and purple could be your entry. Stop loss above. And we can start to see if the head and shoulders play out. There are other signs to look for in the head and shoulders. We know the volume profile. Upon the rise of the right shoulder volume should be higher than the rise of the head. This is the first warning sign. And then the volume coming downwards from the head on this side should be higher then the sell volume should be higher than the buy volume on the rise of the head. And then the last confirmation is the increased volume on the sell-off on the right shoulder. Also, we can look for abbreviated right shoulders that are typically going to give a pronounced effect to a dump in this case, or a pump in the inverse head and shoulders case. So how could we enter? We could do this type of entry here. We could enter along the right shoulder. Sometimes I draw a little trend line from the left shoulder to the right shoulder, and I say, okay, this looks like it could be a good entry point. So if we see the left shoulder we'd play out, we see the head play out, and you're still not in a position yet, you can get an entry on the right shoulder, stop loss above. If you're a breakout trader, you will enter, well, here's the second scenario. You can enter towards the bottom of the right shoulder, stop loss above. And if you're a breakout trader, you enter upon the break of the neckline with stop loss above, right back inside, sort of, but right above the neckline. Okay, so that's how we would play head and shoulders. Let me just make sure I'm recording, not doing all this for nothing. Okay, so now we go over down here to the inverse head and shoulders. We could typically play it the same way. You can get an entry upon the falling of the head here. You know, it's nice if the head finds support, a support level. By the way, this 81.28 is not really it's not a strong support for me. I just have it there because it's support of this, some of this recent price action right here. We've been seeing it hold up. But yeah, my next support is really 80.51 for this current price action. But you know, we're looking like in a few hours we might get a daily close, but this is for the analysis video, so we'll talk about this after this video. I'll put out the analysis video for the group. Okay, so we're talking inverse head and shoulders here. We are talking a entry from the bottom of the head with support line here and stop loss below the support. This is how we would play this. Once again, if you're entering, if you miss the head and you need to enter from the right shoulder, get a little trend line going, entry right here, stop loss below. Other option is to play it from here, entry here, stop loss below, or if you're a breakout trader, enter upon a break of the neckline, stop loss below the neckline. Okay, let's move over to a pennant here. Typically we know a pennant is more of a continuation pattern, so it can go either way. Let's talk about, you know, if it's coming from down candles, we typically expect it to go downwards again. It's coming from up candles, we you know, an uptrend, we expect it to go up again. Not always the case. That's why we watch the price action in between, of course. Depends if you're close to a resistance or a support. All those things matter. The price action in the middle matters. You can't just say, okay, well, ascending triangle, this is bullish. We need to keep an eye on the price action within the formation. So how do we enter? If we are looking for a bullish entry, there's a few scenarios. You can, you know, if we think this is bullish overall, you can enter off a bounce here. If we find support, stop loss below. You can enter when it starts grinding along the top, stop loss below, or you could play the breakout, stop loss back inside. Same for the bottom. You can enter here at the top, and remember the purple line is the entries. Stop loss right above. If you find resistance here, you can enter when you start grinding along the bottom here, stop loss above, or you can enter the fallout, stop loss back inside. Okay, so I hope that was an informative video on how to be prepared to get ahead of the Bitmex overload. It seems a lot of people are having a problem with the overload, and I don't personally have much of a problem with it because I'm prepared ahead of time. So it's about being prepared ahead of time. It's about having you know, support and resistance lines that make a lot of sense. And overall, you know, guys, I hope that really helps you, you know, figure out how to get a better entry. If you're looking to learn more about, you know, Bitmex and whatnot, technical analysis, feel free to DM me. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Let's make some money, you know. Let's keep trading. All right, see you guys out there.